How you attack in the raid weekend has a huge effect on the amount of raid medals you get. In this video, I'll give you a guide on how you can almost guarantee to always get the maximum amount of raid medals in the raid weekend. With that, welcome to yet another video, and this time we will dive into the clan capital again after a long time. Last weekend, we managed to get the maximum amount of offensive raid medals of 1,620, and we got 1,911 raid medals in total. And as you can see, we didn't even need to do every single one of our attacks. We just needed 83 attacks in total of the 300 possible attacks you can do in a raid weekend. And also, we just did 4 raids. Normally, you will complete around 12 to 15 raids maybe, and we just completed 4. It's a complete myth that you need to do all your attacks in order to get the maximum amount of raid medals. The most important thing, which many people don't know, the only thing you need is one single raid. You just need to complete one single raid and you can already get the maximum amount of offensive raid medals, so the amount of 1,620. And that's because the offensive reward, similar to trophies, actually gets calculated by the amount of clan capital gold you get per attack. So in this case, this would be the 445,000 rated clan capital gold divided by the 83 attacks. So that brings us on roughly 5,400 clan capital gold we get per attack. And if you're roughly above 5,000, you should be good to go to get the maximum amount of raid medals. So you should always focus on clearing each and every district with the least amount of attacks. So your goal should always be to clear every single district with 2 attacks and clan capital peak with 3 attacks. And now you may ask how to clear districts in 2 attacks. That's exactly what I'm going to show you right now. And I chose some of the hardest districts to hit. And we will be taking a look at how you can approach them to always guarantee that juicy 2 hit. Starting off with Builder's Workshop. And this base, of course, is not too good. It's not completely maxed out. It's not the best layout, but it's probably what every single one of your clans out there will hit on average. And on such a base, or just on non-max bases in general, you can get so much value with the Mountain Golem in combination with an Endless Haze spell. So that's exactly what you're going to do on most districts. You're just going to use a free spell and an Endless Haze spell in the first attack. We'll take a look at from what side you can approach the base at best. And then you will just send in your golem, and your golem is going to do the rest. And here and there you also still have a few of your troops you can use, for example Hawk Riders as well as Barbarians, just to funnel your golem into the right direction, so he doesn't walk on the outside, but goes straight into the base and takes out a good chunk of the base in the first attack. So you can finish everything off in the second attack with yet again a Mountain Golem, which you're going to drop in the Endless Haze spell once again. And this time you of course don't need a Endless Haze spell because it's still on the field, and you will use 2 free spells instead. And you should be able to freeze the complete rest of the base. And with that, your Mountain Golem is going to crush every single one of those buildings, clearing the district in 2 attacks. This, however, is of course not possible on Dragon Cliffs, because all of those dragons are just going to fry your golem. So on Dragon Cliffs, we're going to need another approach, and this would be the mass super miners. So you're just going to send in 9 or maybe 10 super miners into the base. You're going to use 1 frost spell on top of the blast bow, as well as, if possible, a few of those huts of super dragons. And you're going to use a heal spell just to protect your super miners through the first few of the super dragons, because those few super dragons can really deal a ton of damage. Even though your super miners are probably up on the surface for like 1 to 2 seconds, those super dragons are still going to attack your super miners, and they will fry a ton of them. They're doing so much damage, so you need to watch out for that. But once you have like 40% on the first attack, or maybe 50% or more, you should be quite sure. It should be quite sure for you to actually get it done in 2 hits. And in the second hit, you're going to do the exact same approach. You're going to use a frost spell together with a heal spell. And this time you just want to get as many of those super dragons within the frost spell. And once they're in the frost spell, they are not going to exit it. because they will be slowed down so much they won't be able to fly out of the frostbow fast enough, because the super miners are just up on the surface for like 1 second, then they go down under, and in a 1 second time frame those super dragons are just absolutely doing nothing. They are completely stationary on that frostbow, and with that you can also clear dragon cliffs in just 2 attacks. Now let's also take a look at Barbarian Camp, because Barbarian Camp can also be very tough to attack and also incredibly hard to attack with a Mountain Golem, because that Mountain Golem does get a ton of damage from all of those point defenses. So like the multi-cannons, the normal cannons, the spare throwers, they are dealing a ton of damage, especially all of those hidden Tesla do so much damage on your Mountain Golem. So for Barbarian Camp, we're going to use a Giant Sparky in combination with a Rage Spell and 2 Graveyard Spells. Those Graveyard Spells are going to distract every single one of those buildings, and in combination with the Rage Spell, just take a look at how much damage that Sparky is doing. That Sparky is basically going to hit to one-hit every single building within the base. And once you also get around 50% here in the first attack, you should be quite sure to get the 2 hits. Also in Barbarian Camp, of course this base is once again not completely maxed out and is not the best district. On completely maxed out districts with a relatively good base, it is really nearly impossible to get Barbarian Camp in 2 attacks. Also the best of the best clans out there will struggle with it. If you're going to face a maxed out base and you're going to attack, you need 3 attacks to clear it. It's not the end of the world, you should still get a ton of offensive raid medals. But just take a look, also in the second attack we're going to use the exact same approach. We have 2 Graveyard Spells in combination with a Rage Spell. Those Graveyard Spells once again to distract any of those point defenses, as well as the Rocket Artilleries, and the Sparky is just going to clear the rest of the base. And we will clear Barbarian Camp in 2 attacks as well. If possible, always also try to optimize for clan capital gold. For bonus gold. Bonus gold is calculated by the amount of health points you still have left up. So you want to minimize the amount of damage your troops will get in the second attack. But it's of course way more important to get the 3 stars within 2 attacks. But hey, if you can do both, that's of course the best case. The next most important thing, and probably also the hardest thing to do, is Capital Peak in 3 attacks. And on Capital Peak, we are also going to approach with the Sparky. And you really need to watch out on this one, because if that Town Hall or if that Capital Hall is going to shoot at your Sparky, your attack is over within 10 seconds, and on Capital Peak we're actually going to use an Endless Haste spell together with the Sparky, and not a Rage spell as we did on Barbarian Camp. But once again we're going to use 2 of those Graveyard Spells just to distract every single one of those big defenses, so the Blast Bow, the Inferno Tower, the Giant Cannon. We want to distract almost everything we can. And then we're going to deploy some battle rams one after another, just to distract those defenses, as well as, of course, spawn a few skeletons. It didn't work out in this case, unfortunately, so we got like 10, maybe 20% within the first attack, which is really not a lot. Made it very, very hard to clear the rest of the base within 2 attacks. But even if you screw up the first attack, it's not completely over, you can still correct it. And the reason we actually used the Endless Haste spell within the first attack is exactly this one, because we're going to use the Mountain Golem in the second as well as in the third attack. And you always want to bring 1 or 2 Inferno Dragons just to take care of the dragon. That Super Dragon on the Capital Peak is so incredibly devastating. It can do a ton of damage to any of the troops. It will fry absolutely everything if you just completely ignore it. But we're not going to ignore it. We're going to use a Inferno Dragon to take care of it. With that, the Super Dragon has been taken care of. And the Super Dragon is gone. And the Mountain Golem is doing a ton of work. Is taking out a good chunk of the base. And now it's actually possible to finish it off in 3 attacks. Once again, of course, with the Mountain Golem in combination with 2 freeze spells, we can freeze absolutely everything on the back end of the base. With that, the Mountain Golem will have absolutely no problems clearing the rest of the base. And one very cool thing you can also do is use one of 2 of those Inferno Dragons on the Capital Hall as well, because the Capital Hall is so incredibly tanky. It is going to stay up for so incredibly long. Also, a Mountain Golem needs so incredibly long to clear it out. I don't know the exact number of hits, but I think it's like 8 to 9 hits of a Mountain Golem, and the Mountain Golem is doing a ton of damage. So therefore, always use Inferno Dragons instead if there isn't a air defense next to it, which is going to rain down fire on top of your Inferno Dragon. If you have the possibility to do so, please do so. And with that, you can also clear Capital Hall in 3 attacks. And we managed to achieve our goal. And with that, we got a good chunk of offensive raid medals. But of course, clearing bases in 2 attacks and clearing Capital Peak in 3 attacks isn't the only way on how to get a good amount or the maximum amount of offensive raid medals. To really guarantee it, you really need to get those 1 hits on the default layouts. So there is a set of default layouts, and there are a ton of approaches to get these default layouts in 1 single attack. But if I were to include every single one of those 1 hits within this video, the video would probably go 1.5 hours, and we of course don't have the time for that. However, I do have an older guide of Zen linked in the description if you want to take a look at that. But of course, these strategies are always evolving and always getting easier. So if you want a guide on the current strategies to clear these default layouts in one single attack, then let me know down in the comments. With that, I would say see you guys soon with the next video. Until then, see ya and bye bye.